Hey everyone, I am back with another video. I apologize that this started a little abruptly, but when I started filming this, sadly the camera was completely out of focus for the first couple of minutes, so I edited it out for your benefit because it was really not worth looking at. Before we start talking about this piece, I'm just gonna tell you the colors that I am using. I will also leave it for you in the description box below. But I got two Ranger colors. The one that I just put down here, the red one, which is crimson. And I'm also using Sunshine Yellow. And then I got two Copic colors. One is gray, which I use a lot in my pieces. This one is Cool Gray number 7. And the green is Pale Olive. So those are the colors, and I am, of course, also using brass. I feel like I use brass on almost every piece I do these days. It's so amazing, and brass works with like all colors. So I'm sure I'm not the only one who's completely in love with brass. Now what I want to do on this piece is go crazy. I usually do stuff, well, not always, but a lot of the times I do pieces that are a little more controlled and a little more, what is the word I'm looking for? Calm. Sort of this, I want to be less calm. I want this to be colorful. And I just want to go a little crazy. Now you can see I got a few colors down already. And I want to sort of make the colors a little more heavy at the center. A lot of brass. And I'm just going to start sort of working it down a little bit. And then I'm going to start fading it out more. I might have gone a little overboard on the brass here, but it's okay. We'll blow it out. I wanted to do this, I wanted to take this piece for you because I felt a little inspired today to step out of that comfort zone. And I feel like we should all do that. And I wanted to show you this piece because this is sort of me experimenting. I don't usually do pieces like this, but I am starting to like it a lot more, sort of just going a little crazy. And although I have a little bit of a plan with this, I also just want to sort of go with the flow and see what happens. Because many times, and this happens a lot, I'm sure it does for you too, you have a plan for a new piece and you know exactly what you want to do. And then sort of halfway through it, you realized it hasn't turned out anything like what you thought it would. But again, that's sometimes a really good thing. Now, when the stuff that I've sort of put down right now is, well, it's not very pretty, is it? But I feel like a lot of pieces are like that. When you start a new piece, it's not pretty. You need to give it some time and start working on it more, and then hopefully it will end up a lot prettier. But most pieces are not pretty at first, and I feel like this right now is, well, it's kind of ugly, ain't it? But hopefully it's gonna get better the more I work on it. Like I said, I want sort of a lot of color in the center, and then I'm going to start to sort of work my way out. And I guess I'm using two different techniques on this one. The one is sort of what I'm doing right now, is just putting down ink and brass, adding some ISO, and then I just let the air move it around. I'm not trying to create sort of any particular shapes or sizes. I just want the colors down with a lot of brass, and I'm going to use that color a little later on to sort of work my way out. So I'm not really too concerned with how it's looking right now. It should get more interesting a little later on. I'm just gonna add a little more of the cool gray in the center. I like having this sort of contrast. I do this with a lot of my pieces because it just sort of makes it more interesting to look at. So I do that a lot, add some dark color in the center of the piece. I think I have sort of decided that this is going to be a little diagonal too. I do diagonal too much sometimes, but it fits so well with this size paper. This is Nara paper, by the way. I don't think I mentioned that. It's basically the only paper I use. Nothing wrong with the other brands, but this is just, it's so amazing to work on. I know I said this in my other videos, but it's amazing. The fact that you can wipe everything completely off. There are no stains like you get on other papers. Now, I just want this to sort of move a little on its own before I start drying it. Sometimes you can actually, if you're going for this sort of very uncontrolled look, I don't know if that's the right word, but just put down some ink, add a little ISO, and then see what happens. Because this actually sort of made a very nice round shape all by itself, and the brass sort of lined a little up around the edges. So sometimes that's a good tip, actually. Once in a while, see, I haven't even dried it yet. I'm just gonna leave it. Once in a while, just do that before you go all crazy with the air. Just see what happens, because ink, it has a mind of its own. And so I'm going to do this. This didn't turn out as pretty as the other one, so I'm going to use a little air. But ink has a mind of its own, and sometimes it's annoying because it doesn't really do what you want it to. Like I've mentioned before, I talk to my inks a lot, but as usual, they don't listen to me. But sometimes it's a good thing to just leave them when you put on the ISO and then see what happens. If it's not dry, you can always sort of change it and move it with the air, but it's fun to sometimes just put it down and see where it goes all by itself. I had a comment in one of my last videos. I'm doing the same thing with this one, just trying to see what it does on its own, moving in a little towards the center. I'm distracting myself. I had someone in another video who said that she appreciated the fact that she wasn't the only one who talked to her inks, and I actually found that really funny because I didn't think anyone actually did that. So Do anyone else do that? Do you start talking to them when they don't behave? Because I do. I get a little annoyed and tell them what I want them to do, but they don't do it. Now this is turning out to be a really nice shape too. This is where I'm using my favorite technique. Well, one of my favorites. Picking up the paper so that you can make this sort of very round shape by tilting the inks around without using the air. If you've seen my other videos, you know that I do this a lot, and I love the way you can make fades with that technique. It is my absolute favorite way to make fades. It is a little tricky, and you might need to spend a little time practicing, because when you pick up the paper, it will very easily run away from you. So you need to practice on this a little, how gently you need to sort of move it. And also a good tip for that technique is to not have too much ISO on it, because then it will run away from you. I let this little fade dry on its own, and it turned out really nice. So I'm just adding a little more on top of it. Now you can see I've sort of very slowly started to work my way out, away from the center. And I've started using this technique of picking up the paper a little more now, because I wanted a lot of color in the middle, in the center of the painting. But as I work my way out, I want it to fade a little bit more. I want it to be a little softer and a little more wispy. That helps with that contrast that I think often makes it very interesting to look at. So that's sort of my plan now, starting to work my way out a little bit. I am going to add more color and a little more darker colors sort of in the center, going diagonally, and then working my way out a little bit. I should just mention my new hairdryer, because this is still new. I talked about this in another video, that my heat gun, which I usually use and absolutely love, it's getting a little old and started making some weird noises. It still works, but I thought maybe it was time to try one of these fancy hair dryers. This one is a Remington, and it comes with these different sort of brush attachments, which I obviously don't need for this. I've tried it a couple of times now, and I was a little sad at first, because this is more powerful than my heat gun, which makes it a little more tricky to control the ink and the ISO on the paper. But I'm getting a little more used to it now, and I'm just going to keep using it and keep practicing. I'm just figuring out what I want to do in this corner. It didn't dry up quite the way I wanted it to on its own, so it needs a little air. But I'm gonna keep using this new hair dryer and start feeling a little more comfortable with it. I think the first thing I learned with this, because it is more powerful, is that I need to keep it a bit further away in order to control it. A lot of brass right there, which I'm going to use. Just dab it in. I do this a lot. When you get either a metallic that's too much or a color, just use your finger and mix it in a little on the paper. I think I just distracted myself again and forgot what I was saying. I was talking about the hairdryer. Right, I was talking about keeping, I'm really sorry. It's a little late and I'm getting tired, I think, so I can't remember what I'm saying. I will try to concentrate. As you can see here, if you want to move it gently, you keep it a bit far out, away from the inks. That's what I'm trying to say, not directly on top of it. I jumped a little in the video again. I apologize, but you didn't miss much. I sort of keep it around the ink if you want to move it slowly, and then have the air directly down on the paper. Keep it very close to the paper. If you want to move it around a lot, then you point it more towards the ink. But if you're making a fade and you just want to dry it, you just keep it just a little bit away from the ink, and then the air straight down on the paper. When the ISO has almost dried, then you can sort of have more direct air on it because it won't move anymore. But keeping it close to the paper and moving the air sort of around the ink, that's a good tip if you want to learn to control it without sort of blowing it all over the paper. So anyway, that's the hairdryer. I think I will get used to it, and I think I'll keep it. And then of course I have my heat gun in case I miss him, because he has been really good to me. I feel like this is starting to look a little better. What do you think? I'm sort of halfway through now, and I feel like it's starting to look a little prettier once you start sort of working your way out, getting more shapes and fades and wispy stuff. I feel like this is when it starts looking a little prettier, and you sort of get a sense of how it's going to end up. I am really happy that I decided to use this, what was it called? Olive, I believe. Pale olive. I don't remember, but it's an olive Copic. I have not used this for a really long time. I have been sort of a little obsessed with Ranger Moss. It is one of my absolute favorite colors, and I had a couple of months where I went a little crazy with the moss. And also, I think I'm not the only one who's sort of in love with this color, because I jumped ahead a little again. I'm sorry. Again, you didn't miss much. A couple of months leading up to Christmas, I sold 3 or 4 paintings in a row where I had used moss, and I thought that was sort of funny. But I think it's just a really great color, and a lot of people like that sort of very soft, almost sort of grayish green. I thought maybe I sold because they were green and it was Christmas, but I don't actually think that's why. I think it's just a really great color. But I decided I needed a break from the moss. You can't just use the same colors all the time. It gets boring. So I looked at all my inks and I found this olive, and I really, really like it. It is also very soft, and it goes well, I think, with both yellow and red, and orange too. I'm not using orange on this one, but it goes well with many colors. I haven't always been a fan I'm just going to let this dry a little on its own too, see what happens. I haven't always been a fan of green. I think it's because the first couple of green colors that I bought when I first started with inks, they were too green. One of them I think was actually called grass green, and when I tried it out the first time, I thought this is too much grass. I don't know why I was surprised. Grass was in the name, but I didn't expect it to actually look like grass. But that is also when I realized, and this is another little tip for you, is you can mix your colors so well. And I learned, and this is what I tried with that grass green. I mix it up before I put it on the paper. I mix it up with also a Copic cool gray. It is number 5, I believe. It's a little lighter shade than the one I'm using on this piece. That gray works so well for mixing colors. If you have those colors where you just feel like they're too much, they're too bright, too powerful, and you want them to be a little bit softer, try mixing it with sort of a medium size gray. I do this with a lot of colors when I want them to be a little softer, and they work. It works so well with green. Not a fan of really bright green. I like them a little more soft. So that's another tip for you. Gray is really good for softening down those really bright colors. I think I'm starting to get sort of a little brown shades on this. I really like it. Even though I've only used, what was it, 4 colors on this piece, there are a lot of new colors popping out, which I really, really like. I do feel like this is sort of starting to look like something now. It might be a little busy. I don't know, what do you think? I felt when I was sort of halfway through, I felt like I had gone a little overboard and I had done a little too much, like it was a little too busy. But well, I did this piece yesterday, and when I looked at it today, I liked it a lot more than I did yesterday. Sometimes if you're not quite sure about a piece, don't get all mad and annoyed. Just leave it and come back to it the next day, look at it again, and you'll see it completely differently. And I did that with this a little bit, because yesterday I thought it was way too busy. Today, I kind of like it. And also feeling a little proud of myself for stepping out of that comfort zone, because I've sort of been stuck in it for a little bit, doing my fades, which I love, and I won't stop doing those types of pieces. But I'm so happy I started going a little more color crazy, like with this piece, because it's fun. And again, experiment. Always try new stuff. I highly recommend it, because it might not be your best ever, and you might not like it all that much, but you usually learn something every time. Even with a piece you don't like, you will have learned what not to do next time. So there's always a positive. Yeah, I like this. I like this mix of color, and I'm very happy I also used the red, because it kind of makes it pop a little, doesn't it? And maybe on that left-hand side there is a tiny bit of orange. I could have used more orange on this. That would have worked really, really well. I'm going to start moving up towards the corner and doing the last little bit. and just sort of thinking about how much more color I want. I've got some dark gray that I might use, but I think I need just a little bit more color, maybe some red. I would love to know two things. How often do you go crazy and experiment? Are you good at doing that, or do you sort of stick to the same things and get a little scary? I get a little scared sometimes experimenting. I'm a lot better at it now because, well, if it turns out like crap, you just move on. Another thing I would like to know is, well, what you think about a color mix like this. I didn't like it when I first started with inks. I only used maybe 2 colors at first, but I really started loving this. Do you like to keep it simple in colors, or do you like to go crazy like this? I'm starting to get more crazy with inks. I have to be honest. I have again put a little mat on it because it usually helps me figure out how much more I want to do, which direction I want it in, how much more color. This always helps me. So I do this with almost every piece. When I'm halfway through, or maybe a little more than halfway through, I put a mat on because it looks so different. It looks more finished, and it's so much easier for me to see how much more I actually want to do. Needs a little more color, a tiny bit more color. So once again, I have soon almost spent half an hour talking, and like I said in the last video, I hope you're not bored of listening to me. I can usually find stuff to say. And, well, today I'm really happy sitting here in my living room talking to you guys because there's kind of a little blizzard going on outside right now in Denmark. So, yeah, I'd rather stay in here and keep warm. It's been very, very cold lately in Denmark, and today just a lot of snow. So I'm very happy sitting here talking to you and getting all excited about these colors. Now, I feel like this red that I just put down did not turn out all that well, so I don't believe I wiped any ink off on this in this corner, but I am going to work a little more on that. There's sort of like a big round piece of red that I really don't like. So I'm gonna work a little bit more on that, but I feel like it's coming along nicely now. I'm just going to add a tiny bit of brass. There's a lot of very nice color right there, so just a little brass and mix it in. And remember, sometimes if you're tilting it around like I'm doing right now and the brass doesn't really sort of break up into those beautiful little pieces, then just touch it very gently with your finger like I'm doing right now. Don't push down too hard because you will mix it in completely, or you will get it sort of, it will sort of stick to your paper. So very gently, but sometimes it breaks off on its own, and sometimes it needs a little bit of help. I'm already starting to feel a little inspired to try another piece with sort of a similar style as this, but one where maybe I keep it just a little bit more simple. I like this one, I actually really do, but I feel like it could also be really pretty with maybe a little less color in the center and just a tiny bit more wispy, and maybe spread it out a little bit more on the paper. I'm having so many ideas right now. I might try that. Use some different colors, maybe some purple, some blue. Yeah, I think I'm gonna try that. I kind of like this style. I kind of like going a little crazy with a lot of colors, but there are many different ways to do that, and I feel like I want to try one that is just a little bit more calm than this one. If any of you try something like this, I would love to see it, and love to hear what your thoughts are on this sort of style. I know some of you are in the what's it called on Facebook, Alcohol Ink Art community. So if you try something like this, I would love to see it. You just post it in there and I'll see it. I've seen some of you who tried doing my purple flower with the fades from one of my other videos, and you posted some pieces on Facebook, and I have to say I was unbelievably impressed. You guys are really good. I loved it. That one of them looked sort of exactly like mine. That is unbelievably impressive. And another one was sort of, it was a bit more wispy than mine. Sort of, it was this sort of the same technique and also color, but I can't remember the name of who posted it, but she sort of used the technique and then turned it into her own, which I absolutely love. And I was very impressed. So if anyone tries something like this, I would love to see it and love to hear what your thoughts are on this sort of color gone wild, abstract. It is fun to do, I have to say. I had a lot of fun with this. I edited some of it out because it was really boring and a lot of me just looking at it and thinking, which is not very interesting for you guys. But I think I spent probably over an hour on this. Maybe an hour and 15 or something. It took me a while, but I'm more and more happy with the result. I really am. A little too wild for me at first, but looked at it again, and I'm really liking this. I'm definitely going to start doing more stuff like this, because I do tend to get stuck a little doing sort of, well, not the exact same things, but sort of similar pieces. And I think you should figure out what it is you like to do and then just do it. But I like trying this sort of new stuff. You learn something every time. I think I'm definitely going to do another one that is a little more simple. Now I'm wiping a little bit off here. Not exactly the way I wanted it to. And I feel like maybe it needs a little more, another color in that corner. I can't remember. I think I added a little more color. I'm not sure. When this is sort of done and framed and varnished and everything, I'll put a picture on Facebook in Alcohol Ink Art community. If you're not a member of that group, you really should. It's an amazing group. So much beautiful art, and people are so helpful in this group. I absolutely love it. Anyone has a question, there's always someone ready to answer. Amazing group, so join it if you're not already there. Yeah, I did add a little more color. It seemed a little too red, didn't it? I think this might be the last little bit that I do. Anyway, also fun for you guys who commented in one of my other videos telling me where you're from. It's a lot of fun. I'm in Denmark, but I think people here on YouTube are just from all over the world. I think there were a lot of Americans who left a comment, so hi to everyone in America. There is another Danish, my Danish ink friend, Lone Simino. Maybe you've seen some of her videos. If you haven't, you should. She's really, really good. We have been art friends for a couple of years now. We've also met a couple of times at some art fairs, and she's really nice, and she's also very, very talented. So I'm going to leave a link for you in the description box. If you go check out her channel, she has some excellent stuff. Now I feel like this is done a lot of brass in this one. I absolutely love it. It's a color bomb. I'm happy. I'm going to put a matte on. Now, please tell me what you think about this. And I hope you enjoyed this video. And I will be back soon with a couple of more. So thank you very much for watching.